Solve the following trigonometric equation over the domain 0 degrees, theta less than, greater than 0, less than 360, correct to the nearest degree. Now, what I do in red is just to explain. You don't have to do this in the exams. Everything that's in blue, you will have to do in the exam. Now, if I say sine of theta equals 0.412, remember when we did sine graphs, the sine graph looked like this. Where this is your first quadrant, that's 90 degrees, 180, 270, 360. And if I say, where's the sine of 0.412, the maximum value here is 1, and then minimum 0 is minus 1. So 0.412 is somewhere down here. So if I see where's sine of theta 0.42, I'm going to have two answers, in there and in there. So there's two answers because it can happen in the first or the second quadrant. How do I show that in the exam? Now, the other thing that you have to look at is the domain that they give you. 0 less than equal than 360. If this was anything different, remember this graph can go on forever. So if they say 0 to 720, it's going to happen here, and it's going to happen there, all the way to 720. If they say to negative, it can also come into the negative direction, and it will happen somewhere down to the left as well. So we're only going to look at the domain from 0 to 360, and this is how you need to do it in exam. The first thing that you always do is my cast diagram. So my cast diagram, I look at the sine of theta is positive. So the sine of theta is positive. Everything is positive in the first quadrant, and sine is also positive in the second quadrant. I'm going to say this is 0, 180, 360, because they give me the angles in degrees, not in radians. So this will be the first angle, and that will be the second angle, always working from my x-axis. What I'm going to find now is the reference angle. So my reference angle equals, to find a reference angle, I'm going to use this, but I'm never going to use the sign that is there. So I'm just going to use the value as it is. So I'm going to say the reference angle is the inverse sine of 0.412. I'm going to do that on my calculator. I'm going to make sure that my calculator is in degrees, not radians. I'm going to say the inverse sine of 0.412. Enter, and I'm going to read the question and say correct to the nearest degree. So the nearest degree for 24.3 is I look at the first decimal, it's less than 5. So if this is 24.33, round it off to the nearest degree will be 24 degrees. Okay, so that will be the reference angle. That will be the angle in my first quadrant. Now I have two answers. In this case, it is in the first quadrant. So I'm going to say theta equals, in my first quadrant, it's going to be 0 plus, but we don't have to say 0 plus. We can say in the first quadrant, it is 24 degrees. Or, I also have the answer here. So theta equals, I started to 180 degrees. I'm going into the negative direction, so it means take away whatever my reference angle is. My reference angle is 24 degrees. So 180 take away 24 is 156 degrees. So coming back to my sketch, if this was 0, 90 to 180, it happened twice. It happened at 24 degrees and it happened at 156 degrees. We sometimes write the answer. You'll see the book writes the answer as theta equals, and they put it in numerical order, 24 degrees, 156 degrees. What you'll have to have is you'll have to have a cast diagram. Always find the reference angle. This is a recipe. You're going to do it over and over again. Let's look at the tan. I'm just going to move this up so I have more space. If you need to go look at that example again, please rewind and do it again. If I look at the tan now, it's the tan of, so the tan of theta equals minus 4 over 11, negative 4 over 11. and it's the same 0 degrees, less than equal in theta, less than equal to 360 degrees, which means it's for 1 revolution. Okay, again, I'm going to have 2 answers because tan is negative at 2 places. So I start off with my cast. I'm going to make my cast a little bit bigger. I'm going to say this is cast. I'm going to say this is 0, 180, 360. Tan is positive in my first and third quadrant. So it's negative in my second and fourth quadrant. So there's my 2 answers. To get to those lines from my x-axis, it will be 180 minus, and in this case it will be 360 minus because I'm coming in a negative direction. Remember, this is going in the positive direction, this is going in the negative direction. Okay, so from there I have 2 answers. But before I get there, I'm first going to find my reference angle. So first step, cast, determine where it is. This is the only place where the negative is going to have an influence. The negative tells us where to draw the lines, and then we're done with it. When I go now to my reference angle, equals, it's going to be the arc tangent of 4/11. I do not use the negative. I just find my reference angle. My reference angle is what would have been the angle in the first quadrant. Okay, and if you use a negative, you're not going to get that answer. So reference angle is my angle, is this ratio without the sign. I'm going to do that on my calculator. I'm going to say, clear, okay, let's put it on again, clear. I'm going to say inverse tan, arctan of 4 divided by 11, close bracket, enter. 19.98 degrees, 19.98 degrees. They say to the nearest degree, so nearest degree is therefore 20 degrees. So it means that in my first quadrant that would have been 20 degrees. So I have 2 answers. The first one is this answer. Theta equals, to find this, I'm not finding this angle is 20 degrees. I want to know what is this angle. So therefore it's going to be theta equals 180 degrees. Going in the negative direction is minus 20 degrees. So the answer is 160. Or in my fourth quadrant. In my fourth quadrant, I'm going from 360 into the negative direction. So theta equals 360. Take away my reference angle, which is 20 degrees. And that gives us an answer of 340 degrees. So I have 2 answers, 160 degrees, 340 degrees. Now you don't have to do it, but just to quickly in red show you exactly where I get that from. If I draw my tan graph, which looks like this, 90 degrees, 270 degrees, I've got asymptotes. It's coming down, going through there at 180, and then it's down here. Where is tan? Negative 4/11. Negative 4/11 is down here somewhere. And if I go down at negative 4 and I follow that through, it happens at 2 places. It's in my third quadrant, because this is where my fourth quadrant happens. Oh, sorry, first, second, third, fourth. So it happens in my third quadrant, and it also happens in my fourth quadrant. So that would be 160 and at 340. You don't have to do this. This is just for explanatory reasons.